media tells us the economy is on edge as Trump takes advantage and rallies support. But how much control of the economy does the president really have? Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. The headlines are in. It's time to panic! News outlets warn that a recession could be on the horizon. Mind you, these are the same news outlets that gaslit you saying the economy was fine and inflation is good. For proof, outlets point out that the Dow Jones Industrial Average sunk more than 1,000 points in a global market sell-off. Shares are tumbling. Wall Street is plunging. Even Marvel canceled a movie and Blade might be delayed again. Oh, the catastrophe, the horror. Oh my gosh, just look at that massive drop in value. That's not the direction we want arrows pointing. That's not the direction at all. So now that we got all this horrible news, is now the right time to panic? Is recession already here? Well, let's cool down, put things into context, and go from there. If you need to freak out afterwards, you can go to your safe space at your local university. To start off, the big reason for the recession alarm bells is slow job growth. The economy only added 114,000 jobs last month and had a rising unemployment rate of 4.3%. Because of this, there are fears that a recession indicator called the SOM rule went off. The SOM rule is named after former Federal Reserve and White House economist Claudia Sahm. And basically it's a way to measure if the economy is in the early part of a recession. Now, I won't get into all the economic nitty-gritty because that'll hurt our heads. But know this. According to Business Insider, since 1953, the SOM rule has flashed 11 times. And in 10 of those 11 times, the economy was already in a recession. But it's only 10 out of 11 times, which means the SOM rule is less of a rule and more of a strong suggestion. To ease your mind, even Claudia Sahm herself said she's not concerned that the U.S. is in a recession right now, and that no one should be in panic mode. That's because other indicators of economic health, such as household income, consumer spending, and business investment, remain resilient. As for the unemployment rate, it's being driven less by job layoffs and more by a massive spike in illegal immigrants coming in without jobs. So we went from being afraid of illegal immigrants taking American jobs to being afraid of immigrants not getting jobs. And as for the stock market, lots of people are emphasizing that it suffered the worst loss since 2022. But keep in mind, that's just looking at the past 2 years. If you look at things overall in the past 5 years, instead of only since July 29th, things are not actually so bad. The S&P 500 experienced a roughly 80% overall gain since 2019, and that's after dealing with a massive pandemic. The recent dip may be only a blip. Even if it gets a bit worse, we're not going back to 2019 levels. And if you thought our situation was bad, look at China's Shanghai Index Fund. It only grew around 3% in the past 5 years. A much, much worse performance than the S&P 500. So if you're still investing in the Shanghai Index Fund, what are you doing? Get out now! Long story short, the recent stock market downturn is not actually that bad for the average person who has money in retirement funds and can let it sit for a few years. The stock market will rebound. It's had more comebacks than Madonna. But it's really bad for day traders and option traders because many are losing money right now. I feel so bad for these folks. How are they going to be able to afford the salary of the chef on their third yacht? While not disastrous, it is bad enough that people are already using the recent stock market downturn to take political jabs. Donald Trump is blaming Vice President Kamala Harris for the stock market downturn ahead of the 2024 presidential election. He has an endearing term for it. He calls it the Kamala Crash. The Kamala Crash is also the finishing move of the wrestler Kamala, the Ugandan giant. Trump also warns that a Harris presidency would bring about another Great Depression. Thank goodness Trump is known for never exaggerating anything, ever. But given how voters care about the state of the economy, this could actually help Trump in the polls. Like any politician, Trump gets to promise change in return for votes. Of course, one important thing that Trump is ignoring is that the U.S. presidency isn't all-powerful. You should know, since we're all still waiting for Mexico to pay for Trump's border wall. We all know Trump loves to blame Kamala Harris and Joe Biden for poor economic performance. and crediting himself for positive economic performance. He even credits polls of him beating Biden in the presidential election for the stock market going up. But that's not how the economy works. It's my job here at America Uncovered to bring you a more nuanced look at things, which is why I regret to inform you the economy is much too big and much too complicated for any one person to be blamed or credited for. Trust me, if any president could, they would keep cranking the economy lever up, especially every time there's an election. A lot of American voters have it in their head that it all depends on the president to make or break the economy. Remember, they're just presidents, not magicians. Well, except for Martin Van Buren. Look at those mutton chops and tell me this guy wasn't a wizard. Whenever the economy goes south, the current president gets the blame. And the presidential challengers absolutely love this. It's how Bill Clinton beat George H.W. Bush. You may remember the whole thing about how it's the economy, stupid. And Barack Obama took advantage of the 2008 economic crash under George W. Bush to promise hope and change. All presidents want to make the economy improve, but they face a lot of hurdles. They don't control when the Federal Reserve raises or lowers interest rates. And they don't control Congress, which passes the actual laws. And presidents have virtually no control over states and cities. Presidents don't determine whether states and cities encourage job growth with things like decreased regulation and special tax zones, or foster job loss with overregulation and extremely high minimum wages. Of course, that's not to say that the U.S. president is completely powerless. Presidents can do a few things to help the economy. They do have a hand in passing things that Congress passes, for better or worse. For example, both the Biden and Trump administrations approved massive COVID stimulus packages, which played a role in making inflation go up. Which is totally great and fine. Don't worry about it. You sound crazy now. On the opposite end, Biden also signed the CHIPS Act to invest in semiconductor chip production and encourage job growth. It's worth noting that this isn't just a Biden policy, it's actually a bipartisan law that Congress passed before it came to Biden's front desk. The most astonishing thing you can learn from this video is that yes, sometimes Democrats and Republicans still do agree from time to time. The U.S. president can also help the economy indirectly through foreign policy, like the way Trump renegotiated NAFTA and created the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, and the way Trump tried to bring manufacturing back from China to the U.S., though he wasn't nearly as successful as he hoped, because presidents aren't that powerful. Still waiting for Mexico to pay for that wall. What it all comes down to is people give the president way too much credit when things are good and way too much blame when things are bad. But who cares about the little details? Fortune favors the bold, or in this case, favors the one who tells voters simple stories that are, at best, only partially true and totally lack nuance. Welcome to politics. But you know who does care about nuance? You. Which is why, if you like America Uncovered's nonpartisan take on news and politics, be sure to subscribe, smash that like button, and support the show on Patreon. All it takes is just $1 an episode. Just click that orange button. And like I said, the economy ain't that bad, so please help us keep making this show. And are you drowning in a sea of e-girl dance videos and rage baiters? Fret not. YouTube has tossed you a life raft of recommendations, freshly pumped with content you might actually want to watch. Come on, grab hold, your brain cells will thank you. Click here. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.